Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Johns Hopkins School of Education Master of Science in Education, Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology, also known as DALET, virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also presenting today, we have Professor and Program Lead, Dr. Jim Diamond. And before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Please take this time to make sure your mic is on mute and video is off. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your question in the chat box and we will answer your questions. I would like to share the agenda for today's virtual webinar. We will kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Then Dr. Diamond will go over information on the DALET program. And lastly, we'll wrap it up with admissions requirements, go over financial aid, and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. And we are proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. And for school enrollment, we have approximately 2,364 students, and we offer 27 graduate programs, which includes doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. And we do have a network of over 23,000 SOE alums. And for faculty introduction, Dr. Jim Diamond is the faculty lead for the DALET program. Dr. Diamond has a BA and a master's from Boston University and PhD from New York University. He is a researcher in the field of digital media and learning, focused on the use of educational games to enrich K-12 learning and teaching for students and teachers. Dr. Diamond's experience also includes educational research, design, and evaluation. And his areas of interest include K-12 history, social studies, and civics education, STEM education, computational thinking, and disciplinary literacy. And lastly, Dr. Diamond's research has been funded by the National Science Foundation, the MacArthur's Foundation, #Digital Media and Learning Initiative, the Gates Foundation, and the Robin Hood Learning and Technology Fund. All right, so at this time, I will hand the floor over to Dr. Diamond.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction, Sion. Good afternoon, everyone. It's afternoon my time. It's very nice to be here with you today. I'm very pleased to be able to introduce my program and to get to talk with you a bit about it, and then hopefully get to spend more time answering your questions. As always, I'm very gratified to see an interest not only in my program, but in the broader field of educational technology in general. I think this is very obviously an extremely exciting time to be working in the field of ed tech, either as an educator or as a designer or as an administrator, or perhaps as somebody working in the broad space of higher education. As the last couple of years have shown us, ed tech is very much at the center of educational systems throughout the lifespan, through K-12, higher education, and corporate education and adult education. Digital technologies are increasingly at the center of how we teach and how we learn. And therefore, again, I think it's very, very exciting to be thinking about graduate work in this area. While it is an exciting time, I also think, like almost any other time in the area of education, it is a challenging time. As we've seen over the past couple of years, We've seen the benefits of educational technologies. We've seen what these technologies can do when we have massive migrations of human beings across the lifespan from formal educational settings into their homes. We've seen how technology can be used to deliver high quality, engaging, motivating instruction. But we've also seen that we continue as societies across the world to struggle with issues related to inequity, with struggles related to access, with struggles related to educators who may not be prepared to use these technologies for any number of reasons in ways that we know and that we have evidence to support are effective for supporting education. And so again, I think your interest in a program like this is exciting and is very much needed. And as you're going to see as I discuss the program, I think you will learn a bit more about why what educational technology programs like this one and others can offer you as you prepare to either begin or continue your career journey down this path. So again, welcome. I'm going to introduce the program from a very high level, and then we'll have time at the end. I know we'll have time at the end for what I hope are plenty of questions. So let's get going. Next slide, please. Okay, so a quick overview of the DALET Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology program at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We are a fully online program. That means that none of our students are required to be physically present in the School of Education building or indeed in the city of Baltimore. The entire program from beginning to end is pursued and completed online. We have two main strands in our program. So we have a Master of Science in Education degree. That's a 36 credit or 12 course master's degree. And then we have a graduate certificate in leadership and technology integration, which is a 15 credit, 5 course degree. Typically, most students complete their certificate in 1 year, so 1 calendar year over the course of 3 terms. And typically most degree students will finish the degree in 2 years, taking roughly 2 courses a term over two calendar years. Courses are offered the year round, so spring, summer, and fall. Next slide, please. So historically, and indeed now, we have students from many, many different areas. And this is true of the field of educational technology in general, as you may know. As I was saying, it's broadly applicable, right? K-12 education, higher education, corporate education, many different areas of adult education. Educational technology is present and being pursued as a career. And so we have students coming in to do graduate work, as you can see, from a range of backgrounds, including K-12, working as K-12 teachers and school leaders and administrators, people who work as instructional technologists, so those who work with educators and plan with educators for the integration of technology into their learning settings in K-12 and adult education, higher ed professionals, organization leaders, education consultants, online course developers, instructional coaches, among many other fields. It is consistently and historically true that most students in our program, between 60 to 70%, are K-12 teachers. They are typically on the earlier career side, so 3 to 5 years. Sometimes we have mid-career teachers who are pursuing a graduate degree. But most of our students are early career K-12 teachers pursuing their first either graduate degree or professional certificate. Next slide, please. Okay, so we currently have about 130 active students, so meaning students who are presently taking courses in either the degree or certificate program. These proportions have held pretty steady over the years. Typically, our students are about 2/3 female, or identify as 2/3 female, 1/3 male. As I noted, the large majority of our students are K-12 classroom teachers. Typical age in their mid-30s, but that ranges from students in their mid-20s to students in their early 60s from year to year. As I noted, teachers are typically early to mid-career, and we do have some number of career changers enrolled at the program at any given time. And if there are any of you who might be in a profession that I have not yet discussed, or who are thinking of yourselves as career changers, or who are thinking of changing careers, I'd be happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation or later on. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to give you some sense of where our students are from, and this is really just a snapshot. This changes from term to term, but one of the amazing things about any online program, any online graduate program, right, is that we will have students from all over the world. And you can see here certainly that we have students from all over the United States. And again, this really is a snapshot. There are other states typically represented. We currently have students in Oklahoma and Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico. I don't have them pinned there. China, Brazil, Japan, and certainly any number of other countries. We have students enrolled. So I do think it's one of the amazing things about online graduate education, or indeed just online education, is the opportunity for you to meet and interact with and develop with and learn with peers and potentially professional colleagues from all over the world. Next slide, please. Okay, so it is a purely online program. That means that it is delivered, in this case, via a learning management system. That has been, in the case of Johns Hopkins University, Blackboard. The university is in the process of transitioning over to a new learning management system called Canvas. In some ways different from Blackboard, in some ways not. With learning management systems, sometimes it's a little bit of meet the old boss, not so very different from the old boss. But there are certainly changes coming with the learning management system that I think many faculty, including myself, are quite excited about. So here I've just given you a snapshot of what a course could look like in a learning management system. So if you think about an LMS, a learning management system, as your online home, all of your courses will be there, right? And courses are delivered live, so synchronously and asynchronously. The default mode is asynchronously, right? So again, we have students all over the world. We have students in different time zones. There will never be an expectation that everybody can be present at the same time. For that reason, you will have instructors, the majority of your instructors, who will hold live sessions, either weekly, sometimes semi-monthly, sometimes monthly, but all instructors at some point will hold synchronous sessions, and will strongly encourage you to attend those, but again, really will not require you to, because we know we have students all over the world. But during those live sessions, you'll participate in lectures and discussions, and indeed small group breakout activities, and then come back together to discuss either your findings or early thoughts that your group came up with together. So the key in all of these, right, is really for us to have an active learning environment for our students, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. When we hold synchronous sessions, they are via Zoom, just like this webinar is. Faculty and students will use any number of tools to meet with one another. So Zoom will typically be the default for class meetings, but you may find yourself using WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, and any number of other apps to meet with your peers and to meet with faculty members. But again, the learning management system is the home base, right? Everything that you need for a course, all the materials, all the instructions, all the assignment descriptions, all the grading rubrics will be in one place in the learning management system. Any meetings, any course meetings are recorded and transcribed. Again, we don't expect everybody to be present at the same time. So those are made available typically within 24 hours after the end of a session. There is a very strong emphasis, indeed requirement, on online collaboration, right? If we were an in-person synchronous program, there would be a very strong emphasis on in-person collaboration, right? So we are a program that is very influenced by a social constructivist model of learning. We believe that human beings tend to learn best when it is with one another and when we are in discussion and dialogue and creative critique and creative design with one another, right? And all of our courses are designed underneath that very broad heading of social constructivism. So that certainly includes a great deal of collaboration, right? You should probably expect over the course of this program for about half of your assignments to be completed individually. That might be you writing a paper, that might be you taking a test, that might be you submitting some series of lesson plans for technology-supported lesson plans for a unit, and about half of your assignments to be done collaboratively, to be done as a member of a team with your peers. Sometimes those peers are in the same, have the same professional and educational background. Sometimes they do not. Sometimes they are in the same time zone. Sometimes they are not. There are challenges associated with that kind of collaboration, just like there are challenges associated with that kind of collaboration in any setting outside of school. But again, it's a very strong, we feel very strongly about it as a faculty, right? And do all that we can to design our instruction such that we are promoting student collaboration. And last point, that clearly includes a great deal of discussion, whether synchronously, as you and I might do now when I get done lecturing you, or asynchronously via discussion boards, via using tools where you can record audio and video comments to one another and exchange and engage in dialogue that way. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is a sample of course titles. You do have access to all of our current course offerings if you go to the DALET program's homepage in the School of Education, through the School of Education website. You can also have access to all of the course titles and course descriptions via the student handbook. And if you'd like a copy of that, you can contact me or the academic program coordinator, and we can forward that to you. So these are, I'm not going to read these all out to you, but this is just to give you, I think, some flavor. So technology and the science of learning is a foundational course in the program. The program is grounded very strongly in the science of learning, right? So drawing from research-based evidence and our knowledge of best practices about how people learn across the lifespan and in different settings, right? So everything that you do in this program will ultimately be grounded in the science of learning. All of your experiences will come under, as I noted, this broad heading of social constructivism, right? But we are going to challenge you again and again and again as educators, designers, and administrators to support your assertions, to support your designs, to support your arguments for why a particular piece of technology should or should not be used, using evidence from the research, or using your understanding of best practices as understood in your professional community. So you'll come back to this again and again, the science of learning as your foundation. You can see we have courses in design thinking, instructional design, explorations in blended and hybrid learning, and technology leadership. So again, that's just a snapshot, and you have access to all of the course titles and descriptions via the website and student handbook. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is one example of what an academic program could look like for a student pursuing a degree. As I noted, students taking 2 courses a term typically do finish in 2 years, provided they remain in strong academic standing and complete all of their requirements. So here you can see 6 terms. This student is taking 2 courses a term, so what would be considered a part-time student, which is probably 90% of our students, right? So most of our students are working professionals. The vast majority of our students are working professionals. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be working full-time, and we do have students who are not working at all. But again, typically this program draws students from many different areas, professions, and geographical locations who are working full-time and pursuing their first graduate degree. And so we build our academic program generally with the understanding that students will pursue the degree part-time. That usually means 2 courses. You have 5 years from your first semester of enrollment until you receive your degree to complete your program. So that means you could also take 1 course a semester. In rare cases, we do approve students taking 3, even more rarely 4 courses a semester, but that really is uncommon. So you can see here students beginning with what we consider to be foundation courses, technology and the science of learning, fundamentals of design thinking, and taking 2 courses all the way through. This does involve 2 electives that you can pursue in consultation with your academic advisor. And those electives can be from within the DALET program. They can be from other programs in the School of Education, provided they are open to having students enroll in courses from outside their programs. And indeed, it can involve courses from other divisions of the university, again, provided they are open to students enrolling in their courses. What you can see, the last thing I'll say about this sample program is that the last semester finishes with what we call the two advanced courses. So the advanced seminar, in which students complete a professional digital portfolio. They curate work that they have created over their time in the program. They reflect on their changes as a learner, and they connect the work that they have done to future professional goals. And then advanced applications is our capstone course. So what you would think of as an independent study in which you are applying much of what you have learned throughout your coursework, throughout your peer collaborations, throughout your own professional experiences as you've been applying what you learn in the program to a master's capstone project, right? Those 2 advanced courses are often taken together. Sometimes advanced applications is taken in the second to last semester. The advanced seminar is always taken in the last semester. And students then complete, for the degree program, complete their program with that portfolio. For students in the certificate program, they complete the certificate program with the capstone project and advanced applications. Okay, next slide, please. So we, as a faculty, are 3 full-time faculty members and between 11 and 13 associate faculty members, depending on the semester. Our faculty members really come from a very broad background, again, reflecting this field of educational technology. So you have some of us who are professional academics, some of us who come from backgrounds in K-12 education, either as classroom teachers or as teacher educators. Some of us who are currently instructional designers or learning experience designers or who have been instructional designers. Several of our faculty members are employees of the US federal government. Many of our faculty members are content area specialists, either in the area of K-12 education or special education. So again, the expertise of the faculty, the experience, not only as professionals, but experience as researchers in current and past research agendas in areas of scholarship, really reflects this very, very broad field of ed tech throughout the lifespan. You do have opportunities when working with your academic advisor to make connections, not only with your advisors, but with their own professional networks, right? So part of what we do is not only help you to build new knowledge, new skills, new dispositions. But what we do also is help you to expand your professional network or to continue to build on your existing professional network via our own networks, right? Via our own areas of expertise and our previous professional experiences. So that obviously, and you know this as people who are pursuing graduate degrees, is one of the main reasons you want to be thinking very hard about who the faculty are, about what their backgrounds are, and not only about how they're going to function as teachers, but how they're also going to function as advisors and guides to help you continue along your career trajectory. Next slide, please. So I've noted this, but just to reinforce, we do have students from many different backgrounds. We do have career teachers. We have, so as I've said, we probably have 60 to 70% of our students at any given time are K-12 teachers, but some percentage of those, possibly as many as a quarter to 30%, are considering leaving the classroom and going into some of these other areas. So often we have teachers from among that percentage who are thinking about going into consulting, who are thinking about going into this broad area of learning experience design, instructional technology coaching. We have some students who leave the classroom to and go into areas of media production, either working in large publishing houses or sometimes for ed tech startups, sometimes in public television and public broadcasting services such as PBS, who are engaged in developing materials for K-12 higher ed and increasingly career and technology education as well. Okay, next slide. So the advantages of the program, I think I've conveyed all of these to you already. The program is fully online, which is obviously an enormous advantage for graduate students who are not necessarily in the city of Baltimore or in the state of Maryland or in the Northeast. It is applicable to many, many careers and industries. We do have a faculty, a body of experts with a significant amount of real-world experience, a significant amount of real-world scholarship, a significant amount of professional networking to help you along your journey. And finally, we do continue to maintain and have traditionally done so a very strong commitment in the K-12 technology integration space. Next slide, please. Okay, I think I'm done for the moment.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond. So now we're going to continue by going over the application requirements. First, applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on the school's website. Keep in mind the application fee is $80. We need all official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. Again, this is from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. Next, a 500-word essay must be uploaded. Please visit the school's website on the admissions webpage to learn more about the essay portion of the application. You will need a resume or CV, 2 letters of recommendation. We do prefer at least one of your references to be an academic reference from a former instructor or faculty. However, if you're unable to have one academic letter recommendation, we will be able to accept 2 professional letters of recommendation. And lastly, the GRE is not required for this program. And for international students, there are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit a TOEFL or IELTS score. And if your degree was completed outside of the US, you will need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. Additional information can be found on the school's website. And the tuition for the 2022-2023 academic school year is $972 plus a $20 per credit technology fee for online courses. Please note additional fees apply and are charged separately from tuition. We encourage you to view our tuition and fees page on the school's website for the most up-to-date information about tuition and fees. And if you're interested in applying for financial aid, we strongly encourage you to apply for financial aid when you start your application. And we do offer a limited number of partial need-based institutional scholarship each year. SOE's endowed scholarship awards range on average from $500 to $1,500 per semester, and they are applied to tuition expenses beginning in the fall semester. Please keep in mind to apply for the SOE Endowed Scholarship, students must complete the FAFSA form. To learn if you qualify for the Endowed Scholarship or have any questions regarding financial aid, please visit the school's website. All right, so thank you for attending the DALET virtual webinar. At this time, we would like to open up the floor for questions.
Hi, my name is Haley, and I had a quick question regarding as a non K through 12 educator. I'm more of a technologist or media production person. I recently graduated from the film and media graduate program here at Hopkins, and I'm looking to kind of focus, all of the emerging technology education and creative education I got in that program and kind of apply it, perhaps look more into instructional design or media production. And so I read in an article you have some upcoming possible other certificate programs on the horizon. And I was wondering if you could speak to kind of the future of the program and what you guys are kind of expanding towards to see if that would be a better fit for me.
Thank you so much for this question. I really appreciate it. It's a great opportunity to talk about what we see coming down the road for the program over the next 2-3 years. And for you to think about whether this corresponds with your timeline. And I'll give you what's probably a fairly general response at the moment, but I'm happy to discuss this individually if that would be more helpful to you. So the program historically, and by that I mean for really most of its existence, has been, as I've been pointing out, a K-12 focused program, a K-12 instructional technology program. Over the years, we have brought in an increasing number of students who are in adult education and who are not necessarily classroom educators, but have an interest in the design of materials, right? Whether online or face-to-face, who who either have not worked as educators and may not plan to work as at least classroom educators, but who have a stronger interest in applying the science of principles from the science of learning to the design of technology supported tools and environments. So coming down the road, and by the road, if I talk in terms of a timeline, we are at this point probably talking about within the next 12 to 18 months. I realize that's a little imprecise, but it's about as precise as I can give you for the moment, just given the pace at which things move within higher education in general, and the number of pieces that need to come into play. But within the next 12 to 18 months, we will have an expanded offering in the area first of learning experience design, right? So particularly over the past couple of years, we've really seen an increased interest in students who are either currently working as instructional designers, often in adult education settings, or who would like to become instructional designers in adult education settings, although in K-12 as well. And so given that expanded interest, we are going to be, creating a broader range of courses that focus specifically on instructional design and learning experience design, right? So applying principles from the science of learning, applying what we know from cognitive science, applying what we know about human motivation to the design of these experiences. So a number of courses will come online. Will come online. There will be a certificate, and provided everything goes as I have planned, there will in fact be a graduate degree specialization in that area. Now, at the same time, we are expanding our program offerings specifically in the area of online teaching and learning for adults. So within the same time frame, we will expand the course offerings in the area of online instructional design. We already offer 2 courses in that area, but we will bring several more courses in that are really more practical oriented. So by that, I mean, you have several courses that are theory heavy, and this would be true for any specialization area in the program. And then you have several courses that are really focused on the design of some intervention, right? Given your professional context or given your intended professional context. Now that will also involve, and this is the last thing I'll say about it for the minute, because I want to check to see if I'm answering your question. That will also involve opportunities to actually begin to take courses on specific e-learning applications and integrate those into your academic program. But let me pause. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, no, I think you've spoken very well towards it. Are these specializations limited to the degree seeking DALET program, or will these also be available as concentration, or excuse me, certificates?
They will. So that's the plan, right? So that's my caveat. And again, I know that kind of imprecision can be frustrating, but there are any number of approvals that still need to be received. But in the ideal world, what we are planning for is that the degree will have possibly 5 or 6 specialization areas, and a specialization can become an area of concentration for the degree, or can be its own graduate certificate, right?
That's
So
awesome.
Again, this is the current thinking. Let's extend this conversation, because you need to make decisions based on what currently exists and based on what I'm hoping, or what we're hoping exists, right? So for any of you who are interested in this notion of specializations, please be in touch with me, because I want you to have accurate information such that you can make these decisions. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Diamond. So we do have a question, and the question is, are course titles available during all semesters, or specific courses are only available during an assigned semester?
It is the latter. So I would say about half of our courses, foundation courses, are offered every semester. About half of the courses are offered either 1 or 2 semesters. So that's where your planning with your academic advisor, with the academic program coordinator will come into play, right? If you are working on a timeline, if you see yourself graduating by a certain semester and certain year, then you want to work very closely, obviously, at the top of your program to make sure you're mapping out courses accordingly. And you know, this a related point, right, is that this is not a mastery-oriented program. So what do I mean by that? So, well, in fact, we actually do want students mastering competencies. But often in mastery-oriented programs, you will see online programs, for example, you will see standalone modules, right? And students proceed through at their own pace. So that could be you do it over a semester. That could be you do it in 3 weeks if you go full steam ahead, right? In that type of program. This is not that type of program, right? So all courses are 1 semester long. They're offered in sessions, typically 1 or 2 weeks. And you are required to proceed according to those sessions, right? So any course you take is going to be a semester long. There's some possibility, to go back to what I was saying before about these application focused courses, which would probably be 1 credit sort of mini courses, for lack of a better title for the moment. They likely will not be a semester long. They don't exist yet. But you should plan on every course that you take being a semester long and going through sessions as they open in the learning management system. And so again, to go back to your original question, if you're planning out your timeline, then you want to look at the courses, and we publish when they're going to be offered, right, well in advance. And you want to map out with your advisor what your program will look like, so that ideally you are getting done according to your timeline. And so, Sian, I'll jump in. I see let's see. Can I go through these chat questions or no?
Yes, Dr. Diamond, that's fine. But I do see Haley's question, which relates to more admissions.
Okay,
and it says no application. So Haley, my advice is I'm going to actually give you the our email address, letting us know about your situation. To be honest, I would have to go into our online system to see kind of what's going on, why you can't see the application. It says no applications are currently available. Yeah, that shouldn't be the case. And you are able to transfer up to 6 credits, again, and they have to be approved by the program. But regards to the special non-degree and also the application issue, please email us and we'll be more than happy to help you with that. And then Dr. Diamond, it looks like there's a program related questions from Melissa. To what extent does the course facilitate organized study groups? Can instructors help connect students within similar time zones?
So thank you for this question. So let's see, there's 2 parts. So to what extent does the course facilitate organized study groups? So there is a baseline level of facilitation that you will receive from any instructor, right? And this really does proceed on a course-to-course basis. So instructors, as part of their instructional planning for the course, will either pre-assign you to groups depending on their objectives, right? Now, in some cases, those groups can change depending on the project. I would say more often than not, your groups are consistent throughout the course, but that can vary from course to course. So some instructors will assign you from the top of the course, unless you really have struggles or challenges, you would then work with the group to which you've been assigned. Other instructors will connect students and perhaps based on previous or current professional experience, perhaps based on previous or current educational background, knowing what they know, we typically will, at the top of a course, will poll students. Each instructor will do so to get a better sense of their backgrounds. And then once they've identified these larger groupings, then they will ask students either to pair off or to team off. Some instructors will go even more deeply than that, right? They will either ask to meet with groups on a regular basis, perhaps to facilitate some meetings, perhaps just to listen in, particularly at the top of a course, just to see how to see what the group dynamic looks like. So I think that's a long-winded way of saying that this will really vary from course to course, but you will always have support from an instructor to make sure that you are able to connect with your peers and that you're doing so right at the top of the course, and that you all have an understanding about how you're working together. And sorry, let me just, there was one other part about, so can instructors help connect students with similar time zones? Yes, instructors will endeavor to do so, but it does happen that students are not always in the same time zone, right? And this can be a challenge for sure. Students work it out. In my experience, universally, it is worked out. It's done so in dialogue with an instructor, right? So the key is communication between individual students, teams of students, and the instructor, and being very clear about the understanding that, well, look, people are in different time zones here, so we may have to do things a bit differently. And then that occurs in discussion with the instructor. Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond. The next question we have from Martin is, what does it cost to have a course-by-course evaluation for qualifications acquired outside the U.S.? So Martin, if you go on the school's website, you'll see a list of approved international credential evaluation agencies. So definitely take a look at that. I think that's extremely important, just so that, again, it's approved by the School of Education. The cost, it varies, but very similar. I know students use WES a lot, which is World Education Services. And the option they choose is I believe it's like 147. Again, I would highly recommend, going on the website, looking at the cost. Every evaluation agency, they do list the cost, but at least WES, I believe last time I checked, was like $147.
Okay, so I'll take the next one, Sion.
Yes.
Okay. So approximate hourly commitment per week for a typical course. So as you would imagine, this will vary from course to course, but I always tell students that they should plan on 15 to 20 hours a week per course. Now, again, it really will vary, and it will even vary from session to session, right? But when you're thinking about your readings, your assignment, your assignments, your discussion requirements, and your deliverable requirements, right? So you will typically have a larger assignment, but then within each session, there will be some activity, either individual or in group. And when you take all of those pieces together, you really should think about 15 to 20 hours per week per course. Now, let's see. Also, can we work with our academic advisors to change the pace of our course after the beginning? So the short answer to that is no, but let me break it down. So could you work with a course instructor to change the pace of the course? Possibly. That would be a discussion between you and the instructor, and that ultimately will fall to the instructor to make those kinds of decisions, right? For example, changing deadlines, extending timelines for certain projects or deliverables, perhaps offering opportunities for different for variations in assignments depending on your interest, background, needs. Now, where this becomes a little bit more formal and firm is if you have documented learning differences, right? So working with the Student Services Office, if those are documented and then transmitted to the instructor, which they would be automatically, then there are certain changes that come into play automatically, and you would meet with the instructor to discuss those changes and accommodations, which will vary from student to student. You wouldn't work with your academic advisor to change the pace of individual courses. You could work with your academic advisor, one, if you want to figure out how to engage an instructor in these types of conversations, or if you're thinking about managing your program plan, right? So thinking about, well, are there some courses that typically have heavier course loads and some on average, and some courses that typically have lighter course loads, or I should say assignment loads on average. Your academic advisor can help you think about how perhaps to schedule yourself such that you're taking a somewhat heavier workload, a somewhat lighter workload together, although you're also going to be working with your academic advisor to think about which courses can work well together in the same term, right? Particularly given your current professional circumstances.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond. I did get a question, and the question is, are the courses, is this program asynchronous or synchronous? And then are you still accepting applications for the fall 2022 semester?
So as noted, the program is primarily asynchronous, but all courses will have synchronous sessions. But if you are thinking about applying for a program that is primarily asynchronous, then yes, this is a program that is primarily asynchronous. But know that you are going to be strongly encouraged to attend course meetings when they are held synchronously, and you're really going to be strongly encouraged and in fact required to meet with your peers, sometimes more frequently, sometimes less frequently, depending on the level of group work that you have going on at any given moment. Sian, what was the other part of that question? Sorry.
No worries. The second part was, are you still accepting applications for the semester?
Sorry. Yes, we are. I believe the cutoff is August 8th. I should know that. Sian, do you know the answer to that?
Yes, I would say, yeah, a mid-August, around there, just have your application in by mid-August. And like I said, I mentioned officials transcripts, please order them as soon as possible, because typically that is what takes up a lot of time. We do have another question. During the capstone courses, is it essential to be working full-time in a school or office to do case studies, apply learning within a...
This is Sian, you cut out at the end. I think you're done though. This is a great question. It is not essential. It can be very helpful. So again, not all of our students are working full-time, and they manage to complete their capstones quite successfully, right? So they create design documents. They spend a good deal of time basing their arguments and design decisions in evidence from the literature, in evidence from what we know about best practices. For those students who are working full-time, it can be especially helpful because they may have a context in which they want to create some sort of a technology-supported intervention. So that can be very, very helpful. And that's where your communications with your advisor and the course instructor for the capstone course will be very important, right? Because you'll need to do some planning. For any capstone course, you're not going to be required to implement. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Because the way this program is currently constructed, we don't have, for example, a 2-semester long capstone experience. We can, when that gets worked out with an academic advisor, but it's not the norm. We typically have a 1 semester long capstone experience. Very often that is not enough time for you to conceptualize, design, implement, and collect any data about an intervention. It can be, but again, very often it is not. So it's more about the conceptualization and how you are arguing or making the case for why this conceptualization makes sense in some professional context. Again, it can be helpful if you are in some professional setting, because it's giving you a very concrete space and a very concrete audience and a very concrete, potentially learning problem to work with. But it is certainly not required.
All right, so it looks like there are no more questions. Thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I'm going to actually, there we go, share this slide. It has our admissions, email address, phone number, if you have any application related questions. And Dr. Diamond, oh, perfect, yes. And then Dr. Diamond's email address is in the chat box if anyone has questions regards to the DALET program. So thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you again, Dr. Diamond, for a wonderful presentation.
Thanks so much, everyone. Good luck. Bye-bye.